All right, here is section 3.7, circles and other formulas. This is the last section of chapter 3, section 3, of course. Along with that, the last section of test 2. All right, so this is all about circles and other formulas that are related to it and such things as like the distance formula and midpoint formulas and things like that. So when we're talking about the distance formula, distance is the square root of the x sub 2 or sub 1. It doesn't matter how you do it, but it's the difference between these two squared and then added to the differences in the y's. Now, I have a tendency to think of this in respects to, you could switch these two value systems because the way you add it doesn't make a difference, because it kind of goes along with the slope formula. So if you go ahead and change it a little bit to be this way, then it doesn't change the value of it. And the reason why I say it this way is so that way students can recall that if you always do y before x in the slope formula, you put the y on the top and the x on the bottom. So why not just switch this a little bit around? So I do this. This is how I do this real quick. I take the value, well, first of all, the points. So I take and switch the value of the second point like I do in the slope formula. And then I go ahead and add my y's together, all right? And I square it, and I add my x's together, and I square it. Now, mind you that when you're squaring a negative or squaring a positive, it doesn't make a difference if it's negative or positive. It's going to result in a positive value. So when you're doing this, all right, and you're punching in your calculator or whatever, there's no need for you to go ahead and worry about doing anything but taking the value and squaring it, and you get your answer. But wait a second, we're taking the square root of all this, right? So then why don't we just go ahead and says enter the solution as an exact value, not rounded. Well, when they want us to do that, we got to first determine whether or not it's going to make a difference if we do or not. So what I do is I put it in, and I do 15 squared, and do plus 8 squared, and see what happens. And then it looks like it's the answer is 17, and we have our answer. All right, I'm just going to show you that that's the answer we're looking for. Okay, so again, I know it's not very focused, and I apologize, but just enter it in your calculator as such, and you're going to get the answer. So just enter it as 15 squared plus 8 squared, and you take the square root of all that, and it gives you the answer of 17. Okay, so make sure you enter it in that way. And I'll be using the calculator on the side, but so what I'm going to do mentally, and let me just do this mentally, right? Distance formula is I'm going to go ahead and immediately take the square root of, square root of, and I'm going to mentally just change the sign. So it's going to be negative 18 added to 2, and that's going to be negative 16, and just make it positive 16 squared. And then 12, and that's going to be plus 12 squared. See, so you get into the habits, you get pretty fast. Oh, darn it, I've been not showing you what I've been doing. Sorry. I'm just concentrating on pushing the buttons. Don't even realize I'm not showing you my screen. So I wanted to share that with you. I can hold my hand a little bit steady. All right. So it's really, really fast. So the answer, again, is being 20. We have the answer. So I found that out without writing a single thing down. All right. And the same thing goes for this, but sometimes you can't round it. So, or it doesn't come up to a whole number. All right. Even though sometimes it does. I mean, you can literally take and do, the distance formula all in one shot if you want to. It all depends on you, but I'm going to leave you be with the distance formula, and you can figure that out. Okay. So I gave you some strategies for that. So that's the distance formula. Now the distance formula, you can also use the Pythagorean theorem when it comes down to it. it's up to over 3. So then it's 2 squared. And all you got to do is drop it in your calculator as such. Okay, so all I got to do is take the square root of, and then it's 3 squared, okay, plus 2 squared. And then you get this funky answer. It doesn't want you to round it. So it's 9 plus 4 is 13, isn't it? So then it's going to be the square root of 14. Oh, I said 14, I meant 13. So anyway, it's 9 plus 4 is 13. I said 13 and I said 14. Sorry. But anyway, it's the square root of 13. All right, now the midpoint formula. That midpoint formula is just taking and adding your x's together, excuse me, and dividing it by 2. And then you go ahead and do the same thing for your y's. Add your y's together. And then dividing it by 2. Because you're creating you're creating a point. Okay? So that's what you're doing. You're creating a point. So we want to just go ahead and add our x's together. So there's no changing of signs in this one. So we add our x's together, and it does make a difference on the order of which you do this. So whereas this doesn't matter, or it doesn't matter how you do it, this one does matter because it's always x and then y. All right. So you're creating an order pair. Okay. So now it's -2, -8 added to -2 is -10. Divided by 2 is -5. Yes, you can do it mentally. Add 10 to -10, you get 0. 0 divided by 2 is 0. So we get that. So our answer for the midpoint is -5, 0. All right, that's how simple it is. I'm not going to do any more of those midpoint formulas. You can figure that out. So it's just add your x together, divide it by 2, add your y's together, divide by 2, and your answer. Okay? Really simple formula. And there's quite a few questions there for that. Now, writing an equation of a circle. Now, an equation of a circle involves knowing that the x squared plus y squared equals radius squared. Now, this is if your origin is at 0. Okay? So your center of your circle is at the origin, I should say. So 0, 0. So if it's at the origin, both the center is at 0, 0. So now if it's not at the center or at the origin, then you're going to go ahead and get this. You're going to get a new formula. And it's like where the center is HK. So now when it gives you the center for this at 6, -14, you're always going to take the opposite of both the H and the K when you insert it into the formula. So you know that all coordinate points are made up of X, Y. So then all you have to do is take the opposite of the X and get -6 squared plus the opposite of the 14 is going to give you negative of a negative is positive. All right. You're going to square it and equals. Now the radius is 23. So you could take the 23 and then square it on your calculator and get the value of your radius, or well, this component here. Not that that's the output value here. Always take the square root of this to get to the radius, which is 23. So that's what we're looking for the answer. And you can see my answer aligns to what is here. Okay. So it's pretty straightforward. Go ahead. The X value has -14 next to it. The Y has nothing to it because it's 0. So we're not going to do that. So we're going to just square that. And then the radius is 12. So the value we're going to put here is 144. And that's the answer we're looking for. Pretty quick. These move very fast. So I'm going to let you guys have that. When you square a radical, it just makes it become 15. So I'm going to let you have that. Now it says give the center and the radius. Well, the center is going to be at the value of 0, 3, and the radius is 1. All right, and 1 squared is 1. So the center is at 0, 3, the radius is 1, and the standard equation of a circle would be then what we've already discussed here. So I'm gonna let you see the answer and know that that's how easy it is. All right, it's just 0, and then 3 is the opposite of 3 is -3. So then we have 1. The domain is just how far are you from left to right, so it's -1 to 1, and it's inclusive, and the range is from 2 to 4, inclusive as well. All right, and that's all you have to do for these kinds of problems. They're very, very fast. Same thing goes for this. I'm not going to do this again. All right, write your standard form. Okay, you can figure that out. Now it wants us to identify the center of the circle. That's going to be at 1, -3, and then the radius is going to be 7 because you take the square root of 49. And then what you do is you graph that coordinate point 1, 3. So go ahead and graph 1, -3. And then the radius is 7. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then while we're stretching it out, it stretches vertically to the left, down, as well as to the right. So that's it. The domain will be from -6. And you always be inclusive to those values. So you put the brackets, not the braces, but the brackets, and then you go ahead and say inclusive for the domain is -6 to 8. All right, and then you close out your bracket. All right, and then the range is from right here, -10, all the way up to 4. So we're going to put a bracket, -10, comma 4, bracket, and then we're done. We answered all component parts. Okay. Oh, darn it. I didn't put those answers in. I hate when I show the answer and then I don't put the answer in. But anyway. Okay, so that's that. All right, so this is pretty fast. Center is at -4, -6. Radius is going to be 4. So there it is. And then you just go ahead and graph it. It's the same thing over and over again. There's nothing that complicated about this. Now this becomes a little bit more strenuous, a little bit, not hard. You've got to learn to use the completing the square. Okay. So completing the square, we go ahead and group our x's together. This is the first step you'll do is group your x's together, and I'm going to put a plus box here. This is the start of how you go ahead and turn this into the general form. We're trying to get it to look like this, or the standard form of a circle. Okay, so we're going to do that, and the way to do it is by grouping our x's together, grouping our y's together. All right, and the y is -14y, and then I'm going to put a plus box. I'm going to take the 49, I'm going to bring it to the other side of the equation, making it -49. I'm going to put plus box over here. Okay. I'm kind of falling off the page a little bit there because it's so long. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the completing the square formula. So I'm going to make this a perfect square, because what I'm trying to do again is make this look like this. I'm trying to get a group looking like that. So the process is about getting it to look like that. So I'm going to go ahead and complete the square by taking half of 6 and squaring it. And what I put in here, I put over here. All right, so it goes into both locations. Now I do the same thing for this. So it's going to be -14 divided by 2 squared. So half of b squared. So that would be -7 squared is 49. And what I add to here, I add to here. Now These have become now perfect squares. So what I want to do is turn them into the binomial squares by just taking whatever I took of half of the b is what I'm going to put into the binomial, square it. And that's how fast it is, by the way. And then I'm going to go ahead and put y, half of whatever I took half of b is going to be here. And then 49s cancel each other, leaving me with 9. That means that my center is at 3, 7, with a radius of 3, because I take the square root of this, right, to get the value of the radius. And there's my information. So now, watch this. The answer, boom, same thing I gave you. Center, 3, 7, same thing I gave you. Okay? Center is at 3, same thing I gave you. Okay? And of course you can graph it. You know, go to 3, 7, and then go 3 units, and you're done. And then you state the domain and range. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and just show you what that looks like. All right, and here we have it. Okay? So that's how you handle circles. This is a very fast lesson. Okay? I'll do that one more time with you guys, and then that'll be it. Then you have the rest of this for yourself. So we're going to go ahead and group our x's together. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in parentheses this time. So it starts to look like the quadratic, or excuse me, the standard form of a circle right away. All right. So I'm now doing this. -16 plus box plus box. I would think you would like the plus box, how I do this. It's pretty easy. Now you could do this mentally. All right, you don't have to do all the work that I'm writing here. So here we have it, open parenthesis, half of 6 is 3 squared. And then half of 8 is 4 squared. And now I have an issue here, though. I have to go ahead and square these. It'd be 9 and then 16. 16s wipe each other out, leaving us with 9. So our center is at -3, -4. Our radius is going to be 3 again. And then our circle will be at -3, -4, radius 3, then a domain and range, all the stuff that's given that we normally typically do. So there's all the answers I just gave you. And here's the circle graphed, and then the domain and range given. All right, I think you can figure that out. Okay, so that is the circle. Now, of course, sometimes, all right, it doesn't have any values like this. So this one was really easy. The center's at the origin. So this one's really simple. It doesn't have any value system. We don't have to do anything of what we just did. The center is at 0, 0 with a radius of 8. All right, give me that all day. I mean, that was really simple. That didn't take any time at all. All right, so it's just a very big circle, and there we have it. Okay, but the rest of these, yeah, there's one more left for you, and I'll let you have that one. Okay, now remember, you can divide everything by 2 here. Okay, flag, there's a red flag here. It starts out with 2's. Divide everything by 2. All right, because it's a circle, not an oval or ellipse. But anyway, okay, well, that concludes this lesson. This one's a lot faster than the other ones. All right.